Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you are in the world. This is Gloria White, and I'm back to give you more information about vitamin D and the UVB light and supplements and food sources for vitamin D. So, vitamin D, both D vitamin D is both a nutrient we eat and a hormone our bodies make. It is a fat soluble vitamin that has long been known to help the body absorb and retain calcium and phosphorus. Both are critical for building bone. Also, laboratory studies show that vitamin D can reduce cancer cell growth, help control infections, and reduce inflammation. Many of the body's organs and tissues have receptors for vitamin D, which suggest important roles beyond bone health, and scientists are actively investigating other possible functions. I wonder if vitamin D could protect the cells in the lungs from COVID. If there are receptors there. I haven't found any information on that, but inquiring minds want to know. Few foods naturally contain vitamin D, though some foods are fortified with vitamin D. Most people, for most people, the best way to get enough vitamin D is taking a supplement because it is hard to eat enough through food. Vitamin D supplements are available in two forms. Okay, vitamin D2 or pre-vitamin D, and vitamin D3. Both are also naturally occurring forms that are produced in the presence of the sun's ultraviolet B, the UVB rays, hence its nickname, the sunshine vitamin. But D2 is produced in plants and fungi, and D3 in animals, including humans. Vitamin D production in the skin is the primary natural source of vitamin D. But many people have insufficient levels because they live in places where sunshine is limited in winter, or because they have limited sun exposure due to being inside much of the time. Also, people with darker skin tend to have lower blood levels of vitamin D because the pigment melanin acts as a shade, reducing production of vitamin D and also reducing damaging effects of sunlight on skin, including skin cancer. So there's drawbacks and there's pluses. Producing vitamin D is a drawback of having darker skin. Okay, recommended amounts. The recommended dietary allowance for vitamin D provides the daily amount needed to maintain healthy bones and normal calcium metabolism in healthy people. It assumes minimal sun exposure. Okay, so this is for people with minimal sun exposure. So the RDA, the recommended dietary allowance for adults 19 and older, is 600 individual units daily for men and women. And for adults 70 years old or older, it is 800 individual units daily. The UL, the tolerable upper intake level, is the maximum daily intake, unlikely to cause harmful effects on health. For the UL for vitamin D for adults and children ages 9 plus is 4,000 individual units. Okay, listen. The tolerable upper intake level is the maximum daily intake, unlikely to cause harmful effects on health. The upper level, or the UL, for vitamin D for adults and children ages 9 plus is 4,000 individual units. And many people may not be meeting the minimum requirements for the vitamin. In Haynes data found that the median intake of vitamin D from food and supplements in women ages 51 to 71 was 308 individual units daily, but only 140 individual units from food alone, including fortified products. Worldwide, an estimated 1 billion people have inadequate levels of vitamin D in their blood, and deficiencies can be found in all ethnicities and age groups, 2 to 4. In industrialized countries, not 2 to 4, these are footnotes down below. In industrialized countries, doctors are seeing the resurgence of rickets, the bone weakening disease that has largely been eradicated through vitamin D fortification. There is scientific debate about how much vitamin D people need each day and what the optimal serum levels should be to prevent disease. The Institute of Medicine, or the IOM, released in November 2010 recommendations increasing the daily vitamin intake for children and adults in the US and Canada to 600 individual units per day. The report also increased the upper limit from 2,000 to 4,000 individual units per day, although some groups, such as the Endocrine Society, recommend 1,500 to 2,000 individual units daily to reach adequate serum levels of vitamin D. The IOM felt there was not enough evidence to establish a cause and effect link with vitamin D and health benefits other than for bone health. But since then, we have found out that it directly affects our immune system. Since that time, new evidence has supported other benefits of consuming an adequate amount of vitamin D, although there is still not consensus on the amount considered to be adequate. Vitamin D in health. The role of vitamin D in disease prevention is a popular area of research, but clear answers about the benefit of taking amounts beyond the RDA are not conclusive, although observational studies see a strong connection with lower rates of certain diseases in populations that live in sunnier climates or have higher serum levels of vitamin D. Clinical trials that give people vitamin D supplements to affect a particular disease are still inconclusive. This may be due to the different study designs, differences in the absorption rates of vitamin D in different populations, and different dosages given to participants. Learn more about the research on vitamin D in specific health conditions and diseases. There's bone health, cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and how about the immune function, risk of premature death? Food sources. Few foods are naturally rich in vitamin D3. The best sources are the flesh of fatty fish and fish liver oils. Smaller amounts are found in egg yolks, cheese, and beef liver. Certain mushrooms contain vitamin D2. In addition, some commercially sold mushrooms contain higher amounts of D2 due to intentionally being exposed to higher amounts of ultraviolet light. Many foods and supplements are fortified with vitamin D, like dairy products and cereals. Cod liver oil, salmon, swordfish, tuna fish, orange juice fortified with vitamin D, dairy and plant milks fortified with vitamin D, sardines, beef liver, egg yolks, and fortified cereals. And then, of course, there's supplements. Is there a difference between vitamin D3 and vitamin D2 supplements? If you purchase vitamin D supplements, you may see two different forms, vitamin D2 and vitamin D3. Vitamin D2 is made from plants and is found in fortified foods and some supplements. Vitamin D3 is naturally produced in the human body and is found in animal foods. There is ongoing debate whether vitamin D3, cholecalciferol, is better than vitamin D2, ergocalciferol, at increasing blood levels of the vitamin. A meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials that compared the effects of vitamin D2 and D3 supplements on blood levels found that vitamin D3 supplements tend to raise blood concentrations of the vitamin more and sustain those levels longer than D2. Some experts cite vitamin D3 as the preferred form as it is naturally produced in the body and found in most foods that naturally contain the vitamin. Ultraviolet light. Vitamin D3 can be formed when a chemical reaction occurs in human skin when a steroid called 7-dehydrochlorosol is broken down by the sun's UVB light, or so-called tanning rays. The amount of the vitamin absorbed can vary greatly. The following are conditions that decrease exposure to UVB light and therefore lessen vitamin D absorption. Use of sunscreen. Correctly applied, sunscreen can reduce vitamin D absorption by more than 90%. Wearing full clothing that covers the skin. Spending limited time indoors. Darker skin tones due to having higher amounts of pigment melanin, which acts as a type of natural sunscreen. Older ages when there is a decrease in the 7-dehydrocholesterol levels and changes in skin, and a population that is likely to spend more time indoors. Certain seasons and living in northern latitudes above the equator where UVB light is weaker. In the northern hemisphere, people who live in Boston, U.S., Edmonton, Canada, and Bergen, Norway, can't make enough vitamin D from the sun for 4, 5, and 6 months of the year, respectively. That would be like through winter when all the colds and the flus and the coronaviruses break out. And everybody gets sick. Well, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. Buy your vitamin D. In the southern hemisphere, residents of Buenos Aires, Argentina, and Cape Town, South Africa, make far less vitamin D from the sun during their winter months, June through August, than they can during their spring and summer months. The body stores vitamin D from summer sun exposure, but it must last for many months. By late winter, many people in these higher latitude locales are deficient. By late winter, many people in these higher latitude locales are deficient. Note that because ultraviolet rays can cause skin cancer, it is important to avoid excessive sun exposure, and in general, tanning beds should not be used. Ask my sister. She is fighting all kinds of skin cancer because she did a lot of tanning beds when she was younger. Signs of deficiency and toxicity. Deficiency. Vitamin D deficiency may occur from a lack in the diet, malabsorption, having problems with your stomach or your bowels, the lining in your bowels where most of our nutrients are absorbed, or having a metabolic need for higher amounts. If one is not eating enough vitamin D and does not receive enough ultraviolet sun exposure for an extended period, a deficiency may arise. People who cannot tolerate or do not eat milk, eggs, and fish, such as those with lactose intolerance or who follow a vegan diet, are at a much higher risk for a deficiency. Other people at high risk of vitamin deficiency include people with inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, or other conditions that disrupt the normal digestion of fat. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin that depends on the gut's ability to absorb dietary fat. People who are obese tend to have lower blood vitamin D levels. Vitamin D accumulates in excess fat tissues, but is not easily available for use by the body when needed. Aren't overweight people having a problem as a comorbidity in coronavirus or the COVID-19? Yes, they are. Higher doses of vitamin D supplementation may be needed to achieve a desirable blood level. Conversely, blood levels of vitamin D rise when obese people lose weight. People who have undergone gastric bypass surgery, which typically removes the upper part of the small intestine where vitamin D is absorbed. Conditions resulting from prolonged vitamin D deficiency. Okay, rickets, a condition in infants and children of soft bones and skeletal deformities caused by failure of bone tissue to harden. Osteomalacia, a condition of adults of weak and softened bones that can be reversed with supplementation. This is different than osteosporosis, in which the bones are porous and brittle and the condition is irreversible. Toxicity. Vitamin D toxicity most often occurs when taking supplements. The low amounts of the vitamin found in food are unlikely to reach a toxic level, and a high amount of sun exposure does not lead to toxicity because excess heat on the skin prevents D3 from forming. It is advised to not take vitamin D supplements containing more than 4,000 individual units unless monitored under the supervision of your doctor. Symptoms of toxicity: anorexia, weight loss, irregular heartbeat, hardening of blood vessels and tissues due to increased levels of calcium, potentially leading to damage of the heart and kidneys. Little secret about calcium in our blood. Vitamin K2, which is very hard to come by in our diet. But if you would consume a tablespoon or two of kimchi, which is very rich in vitamin K2, then you would have the vitamin K2. What K2 does is that it directs your body where to send the calcium. So if you have vitamin K2 by taking, say, kimchi, 1 or 2 tablespoons in the morning, then the calcium that you consume would not go into your arteries and line your arteries and your heart. It would actually direct it to go to your bones and your teeth. Amazing, huh? Man, I know a lot of stuff. Whew. Hardening of blood vessels and tissues due to increased levels of calcium that would be in the blood. You want it to take it to your teeth and your bones, not your heart and kidneys, which you can get kidney stones, and also arteriosclerosis, which is when calcium lines your arteries and causes your arteries to become hard. Did you know catching the sun's rays in a sunny office or driving in a car, unfortunately, won't help to obtain vitamin D as window glass completely blocks UVB ultraviolet light? So that's not where you want to get it. So there are UVB light bulbs, and I just have this link here. I'm not going to recommend any of these lights. I do not want to do that. I really want you to do your own research and figure out which one of them of the UVB lights would be the best for you. Also research how long you should be in the light. I have not been able to find a definite amount of time that you should spend in a UVB light. And also, I have discovered that there are different wavelengths depending on the lamp itself. So that's not something I'm going to get into because it's just too much. It would be too much responsibility in my lap for what you do with your your body in UVB lights. UVC lamps do have radiation. They are disinfection, and they also kill the coronavirus. However, it depends on how long it's exposed to the surface, if the surface is hard or porous, if you are dirty or clean, if there is dust on a surface or if it's clean. So all of those affect the efficiency of the ultraviolet C, which is the UVC. But it is effective, and there are certain ways to use it, and there are different lights that produce the UVC and different lights that produce the UVB. None of these lights should you have yourself staring directly with your eyes at. Okay? None of that is good for your eyes. Just don't do it. And I would suggest that if you do any light therapy, to do it just on your chest, a bare chest, or on your back, so that it's not getting in your eyes. Because any and all of it is not good for your eyes. But the UVC, the research I had done prior, back in February, said that it would not cause damage to your eyes. And I haven't found anything to the contrary, but I'm just saying, don't take any chances with your vision. I mean, you only have 2 eyeballs, and as far as I know, there aren't, anywhere you can get a whole eyeball. So to make yourself be able to see again. You can get cataracts, lenses changed, but why take the chance, right? So that's the information I have for you. And so now we have an idea of how much we should be taking, but we still don't know what our levels are. But we have confirmed that darker skinned people cannot produce vitamin D using the light, a UVB light or the UV light, okay? And the UVB light is the only spectrum that produces the vitamin D in your skin. And then it goes through a whole metabolic thing through your digestion. It's changed over, and your body has to absorb it through your bowels. So that's all important information that we found. And we know that it actually affects your immune system, which is giving the people the protection against even catching COVID-19. And also, it produces more immune cells, which is what's increasing people who have adequate or above adequate amounts of vitamin D in their blood. It is actually protecting them and increasing survival rates. So let's get focused and try to figure out how we can get the adequate amounts of vitamin D into our body. If you have some type of problem with your stomach, or you have gastric bypass, please talk to your doctor about how you can get vitamin D safely. Maybe the answer is, something different for you, depending on your health. And I'm not a medical professional, so please consult your physician. If you have any type of digestive problems, then, seek their help. And if you want to know what your blood level of vitamin D is, go to your doctor, call your doctor, get a blood test so you know where you are and what you can do to either raise your amount or maintain it. Okay? And as always,